Good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's episode of Teacher Talk. Today's episode is going to be focusing on a Year 10 Industrial Technology class which I was fortunate enough to teach during my placement, and we'll be focusing on the various teaching strategies I used for my lessons to make them as productive and meaningful as possible. We'll be talking about some of the resources I used during this lesson as well, and we'll also be focusing on how I change my lessons up to differentiate for all my different learners, and we'll be going through some of the things which I felt were some positive things and then some areas I think I could have improved on. So this episode might even give you some tips for your own teaching, so let's get started. To give you guys some context, this was a Year 10 Industrial Timber class, so looking at the Industrial Technology syllabus, that's where I'll be referring to throughout. So this class is very mixed ability. It's very obvious who your high achieving students are, or working all the way down to some of your students who need that extra support. So for this activity, I provided an online scaffold for the careers, so students knew exactly what they were looking up for each job. This was followed by our class discussion, the class discussion was very teacher facilitated, I found. So I was giving them extra pointers. So your teacher-centered learning is very familiar with the behaviourist approach, where it's focused on the teacher, so students don't have the opportunity to talk or discuss other irrelevant stuff and get distracted. So, and in that class where a lot of students are extremely chatty, that was more important. That was very important for me to take a more firm behaviourist approach in that area to ensure my students were understanding. So in terms of a worksheet, that was inquiry based, so students were going off, finding their own information and then turning it into their own knowledge, so processing it in a way they understand, which is familiar with the constructivist approach. So looking at theories such as Vygotsky and Piaget, so their focus is on students developing their own knowledge and learning and discovering by themselves, they're reeling it in and processing it into a way they understand. So in terms of syllabus and learning intentions, so we're looking at the IND 5.9 point, so that was focused on new and emerging technologies, and the learning intention was focused on new and emerging technologies and also looking at career paths in the timber and metal industries. So for this activity, personally for me, after teaching the lesson, I found that I could have actually chosen a better activity to focus on achieving those and intentions. So for example, the profile, like the scaffold and the profiles, only really basically covered the learning intention focused on careers in both timber and metal industries. Didn't exactly focus on more the past, present, future technologies. So that's something which my supervising teacher and we spoke about that, saying we came to the conclusion maybe don't integrate too many points into a lesson. In relation to the syllabus outcomes and intentions, we're looking at the IND 5.9 syllabus point, which you'll see below. And the learning intentions were about past, present and emerging technologies, as well as for careers in the timber and metal industries. So overall, after teaching this lesson, I found that my activities didn't necessarily focus as much on the syllabus outcome as they did on the intention, which a common mistake for new teachers. The focus is on trying to jam pack as much as you can into a lesson, which you obviously can't do with a large group of students, and especially with students of such diverse abilities. So I found in this class particularly it's better to go over a concept slowly, one lesson, one concept, then they'll be able to absorb more, learn more, take away more, and won't be worrying about different things in the lesson. So the strategies we use, so we have the online worksheet and the group discussion. I found the worksheet to be great, except that it was very repetitive, so I could have made it a bit more of an extension activity, asked different questions maybe for more advanced students, but overall it was great for all of the students across the board, as the lower ability students still had an achievable goal and it was scaffold, so it was easy for them to understand. And the group discussion upon discussing with my supervising teacher, we found that for this class not to be as effective, as it was more me talking to them instead of them contributing. We did brainstorm some jobs together. So for example, with the timber industry, so we have lumberjacks, builders, paper millers and the like, and then the metal industry, say engineers, welders. So after this lesson, my teacher and I had a debrief about what were my strengths and what areas I could improve on in the future. So we found that the worksheet worked well and it was very relevant to a constructivist lesson, so students took a lot from that and as they were able to research themselves. I did ask them to work in groups, as that in that class they do work a lot better in groups, so students work better together. So that ensured that the work did get completed and all students were, so each student was, say, looking at a different area. So one student was looking at the demand for the job, one student was looking at the salary, another student would look at how to get into that job. And then, as I was saying before, the group discussion, normally with this class it would work, but with a lot of the behavioural problems that we experienced in that class, it wasn't very effective and it was more me speaking to them. So in the future, I'd probably give them a stimulus or a video to talk about. So just say, like, for example, say an advertising video for the farrier course. So students have something to discuss and aren't just thinking straight off their heads, because a lot of them, they like to be, say, spoon-fed a lot of information. So that's something particularly with a diverse class. And yeah, so overall I'm hoping that you guys took something away from my class and my experiences as a pre-service teacher, and I was very lucky to be able to teach that class, and it was a massive learning curve for me as a teacher, both in behaviour management and creating a diverse lesson. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and